Uh, Wednesday, January 10th, 2024, meeting is called to order. Chelsea, you want to do roll call real quick?
Yeah. Alex.
Here.
Ryan.
Present.
David. Oh, he is not here yet. Dawn.
Present.
Kim. We have not gotten Kim yet. Peck. Did we lose her?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, I see you. Will.
Yeah.
And Lori said she may not be able to join us. Perfect. That's it.
Excellent. Are there any changes to the agenda? Don't see any requests. Do we have any public comment tonight? Nope. Nobody in the waiting room? All right.
Nope.
Well, then let's go ahead and move into the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? There a motion for approval of minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
Okay, a second?
A second.
Excellent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All righty. New business. Rochelle, you want to walk us through?
Yes, I would be honored to walk us through our new agenda item here today. So we have Lango Hansen, landscape architects, with us. We've familiar faces. We've brought back Brian Martin and Carly at Boise is with us, and Kurt Lango. And we are starting to work on the much anticipated Deer Point Park project. And this was something that was listed in the council goals for 2023, 2025. And so we figured let's get that up and off the ground. So we're going to start the public engagement portion of again and review the Parks and Trails master plan that has the concept in it. And so tonight I'll pass it over to Lango Hansen to take us through a series of slides, and we'll start talking about Deer Point Park. So thanks you guys for being here.
Thank you. And thank you for the invitation. We're really excited to talk to you tonight about Deer Point Park. Before we do that, I'd be remiss if I didn't say how thrilled we are with how the Cedar Park has progressed and beginning construction fairly soon. So really, really happy to see that moving forward and to be part of Deer Point Park as well. I think what's kind of interesting is the process. It was almost exactly a year ago to this day that we met with you all and started the conversation about Cedar Park, and we're going to follow along the same process for Deer Point Park, where tonight we're not really coming with any designs at all. It's more about background material and setting the stage for what the park may become. And listening to any thoughts, desires, visions you have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian and Carly, and they're going to go through the material that we prepared and then open it up for discussion.
Thanks, Kurt. I'm just tagging on to what Kurt said. I think just several goals to list as we get talking tonight, first of all, covering past planning efforts, the Parks and Trails master plan that Rochelle alluded to earlier, jumping into that briefly, then looking at the site specifically, reviewing the existing conditions out in the field today, and then discussing the overall project process, the design, the public involvement, and then ultimately the construction, and then taking a quick look at the overall project schedule. So that I will share my screen. And if everybody can see that. So this first slide is probably familiar. This comes from the Parks and Trails master plan. And it highlights each of the parks within Sandy's park network, Deer Point being undeveloped at the far east end of town, right right adjacent to Highway 26 as it heads out towards Mount Hood. And really in an underserved area as the development has moved east in town, you can see these dashed lines being the service areas of the adjacent parks. So this is, as was stated in the Parks and Trails Master Plan, a priority to develop this specific park among a few other parks as well, to provide that level of service as a neighborhood park for this neighborhood. Closest park, it's probably the Timberline Park, classified more as a mini park. There's a slight overlap there. And then Meinig Park probably being the next largest park.
And so we're going to begin to look at what a neighborhood park is. And with that being said, and I'm sure most of you know, are familiar with Cedar Park now. And so Cedar Park is looked at a much more regional scale. It has large restrooms, large parking lots, and a neighborhood park is really looked at just serving the surrounding neighborhood. It's typically about 2 to 5 acres in size. It provides the neighborhood a safe place to walk to, bike to, easy access. It incorporates passive and active recreational activities for multiple users within the neighborhood. And then because it is typically nestled within a neighborhood, it generally has no restrooms or larger parking lots. And then on to the next slide. So this is the original concept work that was developed in the Parks and Trails Master Plan, done in early 2022. And like Brian had mentioned, the city has really made Deer Point Park a priority to develop. So this early work included some, but little public outreach, which helped develop a list of standard park amenities. And some of these, and how some of these park amenities could really fit within the site. If so, looking here, you can see that a playground, multi-use field, sport courts, and this blue looping trail that kind of wraps the site going along the adjacent sidewalk there. And with that, the site, or this initial concept, does acknowledge the growth to the east, which the city now has accomplished. We have acquired a portion of the site, which you can see is in the larger red border. So that is now the park site versus where it once sat at just roughly about 1.5 acres. And now with the land that has been acquired, we are just over 3 acres in size. So a lot more room to explore with, a lot more topography to work with, and that surrounding landscape, which Brian will go into the next slides.
Before I go to the next slide, I'll just reference on the right side are 2 photos of the site. This one on the top is looking north, I believe, towards Highway 26, and the photo below is looking towards the east from Meadow Avenue. So this next slide looks more specifically at the park site as it relates to the rest of the neighborhood, touching on the context of just the adjacency with the highway. And the proximity to the residential built, the houses to the west of the site and to the south of the site. Future development, really timing unknown on that, to the southeast of the site. Close to, but really cut off by the highway from Sandy Vista to the northeast of the site. And then zooming in to the site itself, you start to see some of the character. Earlier this week, we had the opportunity to visit the site with Rochelle, Chelsea, and Tiana, just walk the site, get a better feel for what is out there today. It's really kind of divided into 2 distinct zones right now. This lighter shade of green is an open lawn area, and this darker shade to the east is really just larger blackberry. These darker green circles representing existing trees that are out there. There's some really nice evergreen trees, Douglas fir, pine, and a couple other species. There's some cedar out there, providing a really great potential backdrop for the site itself. And one thing that becomes evident as you're out on site is the amount of topography, the grade change that happens. High Point here at the south, it's about the same elevation as the highway, but the site itself really drops down to a low point, about 25 feet of elevation change across this site. And for site of 3 acres, that's pretty notable. Definitely something that's going to play into the overall design of the park itself. And I didn't point out on the last slide, but there are existing drainage structures that have already been installed on the site here, these little gray boxes. And you can see from much farther off site, there's a valley that really directs the runoff of the water onto the site. And that's being taken care of currently with this catch basin. And as the design moves forward and we start to think of how this site gets programmed, considerations like that we'll definitely have to keep paying attention to.
Yeah, the other thing from our site visit is just the noise from Highway 26. We didn't wade through the blackberries, but certainly standing in the lower part of the site and really almost a lot of the parts of the site, it's very evident in terms of all the traffic that you hear from the highway. So that's always kind of a consideration. I know we'll get into a little bit about maybe like sport courts or other things that tend to work better when there's a noisy backdrop, but I think that's something just to point out in terms of what we heard and what we saw at the site.
Hey, Brian, just a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there any way to know historically, or at least maybe in the last couple of years, just how marshy that gets? Or it's just, I know it's just a piece of land, nothing's ever been there, but
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that right now. Given that there was the effort to install these on-site drains to capture that runoff, I would say that there's reason for those drains to be there. Let's put it that way. So
yeah, can you go back to the previous slide, Brian? Because I think that's something that, we walked out there a little bit, but certainly not down, but you can just see what sort of that kind of larger valley and the amount of water that kind of will, moves through the site right now. Now, I think the one thing to consider too, those that, if and when that area gets developed, I'm sure that they'll have kind of mitigation or ways to handle it. But, at the same point, the water needs to end up somewhere. So that's something that should be carefully considered as we think about these options.
one thing that can be a little bit hard to tell from a plan view graphic is so at this north end of the site, it sits significantly lower than the highway. These are the contour lines here, so that the highway itself is probably a good 10 or plus feet above. So that's part of the reason why that noise comes from the highway onto the site.
So then looking at the potential park elements, this really expands on that initial concept that the Parks and Trails Master Plan went through. And it's providing you some visual representation of what some of those elements could look like. So again, some walking paths, definitely updating some of the sidewalk, playgrounds, sport courts, more shelters, more a lawn, multi-use field, expanding those natural areas, a potential disc golf course, and then again going into seating areas. And with that being said, and knowing the neighborhood and what we will expand on going into those three options, some options may include all of these design elements, some may include some of these design elements, and then some that we're missing. And that's really what we're coming to you guys for is there something that the neighbors may want to see that we're missing? Is there something that in your mind with the thought of this really being a park that needs to be developed, an amenity that you all would like to see. So that's really the goal here, is to find out what some of those elements that are missing, or what you all may would like to see.
Yeah, I think as Carly mentioned, we'd love to hear from you all, and I think some of you were involved in the previous public process, which I think may have been a little bit more limited because there were other parks that were also being discussed. But we just want to hear from you and verify that these are a good list of park programmatic elements. Do you see anything that's missing here, or are nervous about anything that we are showing? And also maybe priorities, if you feel like we should, really strongly have certain elements in each of the concepts. We'd love to hear that as well.
Sorry, I had my microphone turned off.
So,
Kurt, how would you like us to provide the feedback to you? Just start throwing ideas out there, or
yeah, I think, yeah, throwing ideas, as long as it's not a Ferris wheel. I think, yeah, we're here to listen and just take in information.
okay? So what I'm hearing you say is as long as it is a Ferris wheel, it's open, right?
Yeah.
So let's start there. So what is everybody's thoughts on here? Why don't we just kind of run through some of the list? I know that maybe we weren't all prepared to start throwing things out, but
I personally would like the idea of, I love the idea of the disc golf. I feel like that's like kind of like an inexpensive like entertainment that you set them in the cement and then they're there, and then like it should be little maintenance, I'm assuming, since it's metal. But like I think that'd be a great attraction that may not be represented right now in the community as much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and maybe I should know, but Rochelle, John, Tiana, do you have other disc golf courses in any of your other parks?
We do not. The closest
Okay.
disc golf course is in Estacada.
Okay.
And I know John's a major disc golfer, so semi-pro.
That's
I
great.
I would add on to the disc golf stuff. I do play disc golf. I enjoy the walk. Rockwood Park in East Gresham has a disc golf course that's kind of like in the middle of their playground. I know it gets used a lot. I'd be interested to talk about the public and people around there too, because I've been out there a couple times and just some conflict in between park goers and then disc golfers that are basically playing their round through picnics or bike riders and things like that. And I've seen some conflict, so it'd be interesting to do some research about that, or just being methodical about where you put your baskets and your holes. That's all I'd have to say about disc golf.
I think one of the things that lends itself to disc golf in here is that the kind of the east half, if you will, or southeast half of the park with all the trees and vegetation. And I think that kind of is nice to incorporate into a disc golf course, give it a little bit more texture than just, long, flat, open spaces, which is kind of what Rockwood is, right, John? I mean, it's pretty open, it's pretty flat.
Open and flat, and those holes are seriously going like right over the playing field, over the basketball court. Like it's
right.
Mm-hmm.
So we, at least with this, I don't know how big of a course we could put in, but it would be, I think, a nice amenity to have something like that in our community that we just simply don't have anywhere.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I expect a little bit of excitement from some folks in the community, there's going to be I would imagine, a push to add some kind of pickleball into those court sports kind of setups. I don't know about the noise. I mean, you take a look at it, you need a pretty flat area. or at least areas that you could terrace down, and they're all pretty close to houses, so I'm not sure about how that would work out. The other thing I was wondering about is, would it be an opportunity to add a second small community garden? Is there a need for that?
What was that, Don? I'm sorry, a community what?
Community garden, is this an
Oh, community
opportunity to add
garden, okay.
a second community garden to our community? On maybe on a smaller scale than what we have over here at Bornstead, but just an opportunity for that neighborhood to have a place to walk to do their gardening, as opposed to having to drive all the way over to Bornstead Park, and to spread it out a little bit.
So my only input is, if you could go back to that last slide, not that it matters. I don't know if anybody knows, but there's a traffic jam coming into town. But other than that, the sound wall or barrier, if we could, I don't know, it sounds expensive, but if we can incorporate some kind of sound deadening into it. And I don't even know that you couldn't have some part of it be a feature, right? If you were building that kind of structure to be a sound barrier, could it be a climbing wall or something like that, and get multiple use out of it? And the other thing I would suggest, I'd say that I'm super excited about, that the first time I've seen it, but I should have seen it on the master plan, is on the very south line. There was a possible link to Tickle Creek Trail. So nothing to do with features, but that would be awesome if we could leverage that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Rochelle, how does this parcel fit into our trails master plan?
As far as in terms of priority or amenities needed?
No, as far as locations.
Yeah, this is an area like we talked about in the beginning, that is definitely an area that is called out to have a neighborhood park that is an underserved neighborhood. So this was a tier 1 priority as far as the development of a park, according to the Parks and Trails master plan.
Right, but does it show any connections to the trail system itself?
Yes, there is a connection there. Like Will had said, there's some future trails that do provide a connection.
Oh, great. Yeah, my volume was a little glitchy there for a while, so
Mhm.
I missed that part of the presentation. Well, so Alex, how about you?
Oh, I think it's exciting. I know a couple people over there, so I think this is definitely needed. And some of the suggestions are really great. I like your wall idea, Will. That's pretty cool. I also find that the community garden also, that's definitely something that I'm hearing a lot around our area, amongst neighbors just on our street. So I feel like there's a possibility, if anything, over there. It's a far commute for some people, so that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it'd be nice. That way, maybe some of the Bornstead gardeners would move over to this one. And,
Right. Yeah. Well, some
Okay.
people, I met a couple people when they were gardening, and they're like, yeah, we drove from over, across the freeway. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
yeah,
It's almost like, I'm sorry you have to do that. But,
Yeah.
they were willing to do it and they loved it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
how about I see that in the little workup, we identify a little shelter area. I think that's always a good thing to have.
Mhm.
Are you guys considering bathrooms at this location? I'm just curious. I feel like people definitely talk about bathrooms amongst
Yeah.
any larger parks. So just curious if that is a thought.
Typically for neighborhood parks, where we don't have like a parking lot, and we're not, we're trying to, getting back to that very first slide that Brian shared, is we're trying to locate enough of these smaller parks so that really people aren't necessarily driving to them, but they're walking to them. And so with that, we typically don't have restrooms as part of it. We just assume that, people will use those facilities at their home. Though I think sometimes and I can't speak for Sandy, but there are temporary concrete pads or something for portable restrooms during the summer months. But typically for neighborhood parks, we wouldn't do a restroom.
Yeah, I know that like Bornstead Park, which is, you know, a little bit larger than this one, but the difference being we have the water feature there that is
Mhm.
kind of inviting people to come stay for a long
Yeah.
time.
Mhm. Yeah,
And you know, when you're 5 years old or say 65 years old, sometimes it's a long walk when you really, you know, gotta
You gotta
go.
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Peck, what are you seeing here?
Hey, well, yeah, disc golf sounds great to me too, since we don't have one. And I was thinking that I think I saw that you had natural area as being part of it. Um, it doesn't to me it doesn't seem like that great of a natural area just because it's right there by the highway. But I suppose if that like that corner where it's all overgrown and everything already, um, I suppose if there's like a part of the trail system or something that goes through there and it's easier, almost easier to maintain as treed and all of that, that kind of makes sense. But in like natural area to me, I think more like the Sandy River Park and stuff like
Mhm.
that, not like this.
Yeah,
So, um, where it's so small and it's already right by a highway and everything.
yeah.
Um, but
Mhm.
I do like what I mean, I am curious what the plan is for all of those blackberries. This would be my neighborhood park, so I go there pretty frequently right now just to as a unofficial dog park
Yeah.
right now. But
Well, we'll definitely be getting rid of all the blackberries, and so because it essentially kind of cuts the park in two. So I think really throughout the site, we'll be taking out all the nuisance plants. And I want to pick up what you're saying about the kind of the natural areas, and it is really strange because when we were out there, we were sitting under or standing under these just massive cedar trees. They're just huge. But then you hear all the noise from the highway, so it's this just weird kind of juxtaposition. But you know, there was some habitat out there and kind of running around and so you know maybe there are some of those other kind of semi-active uses like a disc golf course, or maybe there's some other things that present opportunities to kind of be in the woods. It's maybe not kind of meditative like it is down near the Sandy River Park, but it's a different type of feel. So yeah, I agree with what you were saying there.
I would love if you could definitely maintain all those big trees,
Yeah,
keep all
yeah,
the trees. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
I guess it also is provides somewhat of a buffer to from for the neighborhood to the
Mhm.
highway.
Yeah.
You know, what is it zoned adjacent to the property to the east?
Rochelle, do you have that, or maybe Brian?
I don't have that off the top of
I'm-
my head, but I can look that
Okay.
up really quick for us.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a tough area to do much in the way of development. It's wedged in there. I know at one point there was discussion of linking um the little stub street on the bottom there,
Mhm.
all the way out and intersecting it with the Highway 26. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's still in the transportation plan or not, but that could really, if it did come to fruition, that could have kind of a tough impact on a natural area that's down in that corner.
Yeah, it looks like uh, right to the east of Deer Point is zoned. If I'm looking at the right pink color, there's different hues of pink. Village Commercial,
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
C3. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and we definitely want to keep, all those trees on site. There may be some smaller fruit trees that are past their prime that we'll want to maybe remove, but all the large statue trees definitely keep. And then just to pick up on your point, Don, too, is that those then both, I think, serve as a buffer to any sort of adjacent development. But they also, to a certain degree, they do provide a little bit of sound buffer as well. So I think we definitely want to keep those, and whether it's a wall or more trees, figure out ways to help reduce both the sound, but also kind of visually screen off the highway as well.
Okay. David, good to see you. I see you've joined us tonight.
I did, yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, not a problem. We're kind of doing a little bit of brainstorming, talking a little bit about Deer Point and its future park amenities. Do you have any feelings about that space?
I don't, not right now. I don't. I mean, that's kind of a ways away from my home park. So, I mean, I haven't really spent a lot of time looking at that one. I mean, it's, so, I mean, the pictures that you guys are showing, everything that we've seen on it looks like it's gonna be fun. I understand. I can't remember names right at the moment. Sorry, I've been sick the last week. But I get what she's saying about the buffer of the trees, and I'm not one. I'm a Pacific Northwestern, so I'm not one that considers blackberries an invasive plant. So I mean, I'd like to see those stay without being poisoned, just maintained a little bit, I guess. But I mean, that's all I got.
Of course, playground, I think, would be another item that we haven't talked about, but I see it on the list, and I think that's important, along with typical furnishings, benches, tables, and drinking fountains of sorts.
I mean, I do find that it would be pretty awesome if we actually got to get a disc golf course in town. I think it would get used a lot more than I think we have enough playground equipment myself, but that's me.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about the disc golf. I think that would be a welcome addition to our community, and fairly quiet. Anybody else have any ideas? Rochelle, what is Brian or Kurt, what is the kind of the schedule that we're going to be heading into here?
Good
That's
question.
Great question. I think we
Leading
can
us there.
go to the next slide, because we've kind of outlined that.
Yeah, so we've outlined a brief or a conceptual schedule here. The larger section on the bottom is kind of a zoomed in view of the next several months, January through April, and the tasks, public outreach, and the conceptual development there. And then the overall project schedule, January through December, in essence, of this year, up above that. So in many ways, as Kurt mentioned, this process for Deer Point is going to look similar to the process for Cedar Park in terms of the public involvement, working with this board, bringing you concepts to review, bringing back a refined concept, presenting that same information to council, presenting that also to the public in an open house format, wrapping all of that public involvement and design work up by the end of April, and then transitioning into the construction documents, where we make the documents that tell the contractor how to build it, and move into bidding and permitting, and ultimately construction late summer, with the target, at least at this point, of finishing construction late fall, early winter of this year.
Pretty aggressive.
Yeah, it is. I think it's comparing it to it's certainly a lot smaller than Cedar Park, and I think we'll be back on the mid next month with some different options and ideas to get feedback. The other thing with Cedar Park is it had to go through a fairly lengthy land use process, which we don't anticipate having to go through here. And we would be getting a little bit later start in terms of construction. But, we know that, a lot of times, for a much smaller park and much less earthwork, we think it's doable.
That'd be very exciting. Rochelle, you're gonna have a very busy summer.
So
I'm-
that's
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I'm really fortunate though to be able to work with such a good team, and Lango Hansen's just been incredible through the Cedar Park process. So it will be busy, but good support.
we'll be able to double duty on our trips to Sandy.
Well, that saves everybody a little bit of money. How about the, neighborhood meetings, design charrette kind of process? What, how are we gonna accommodate those, and where exactly are those gonna fit in here?
Yes. So we have the big stars are the public open houses. So I think with this one, because we felt that there was kind of a diagram or maybe a list of program elements that were identified as part of the Trails and Parks Master Plan, that the first open house would be in early March. And we would then present 2 or 3 concepts, ones that you and the city council have reviewed to get feedback. And then we would go through a process of refining those into a single option, and then present that in mid-April. So I don't think we have locations yet. I'm not quite sure if it will be at the community center, the senior center, but we're on tap for two of those meetings in addition to city council presentations.
Very good.
And Kurt, if I could just add to that really quick, one of the things that we're making sure to do as well, similar to Cedar Creek or Cedar Park, is the reaching out and making sure we're specifically talking to the neighbors in that area. And with Cedar Park, we did direct mailers with our website, and so we'll have a clearinghouse that will direct people to the park project, and making sure that those neighbors definitely are included and have essentially, like Cedar Park, are kind of our special guests when it comes to that public engagement portion of this.
Very good. All righty. Anything else we need to know about it?
No, not from our end. We're excited to get the feedback tonight. It was actually really helpful just in terms of hearing about some of these program elements. So we'll take that information to heart. And
All righty.
next
Anybody,
time
any board members have any closing questions, comments, or concerns that you want to share before we move on to staff updates?
30-second editorial on Lango Hansen. I was following the link to the new skate park being proposed for $1 zillion in Portland, and it led me to Lango Hansen, which led me to their website. Which the bonus around here was that the Cedar Park was the conceptual drawings were under their parks in the upper quadrant. So super impressed with your website. Love seeing Sandy out there in the limelight, and just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no, it's our pleasure. It's an exciting project for us. So we're definitely looking forward to, I think, in the next month or so, starting construction and moving forward with it. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All righty. Rochelle, no old business. How about some staff updates?
Sure, I'll go first and make it brief, and then I'll throw it over to John, who can go next. But just wanted to give the group a quick update on the demolition project. Some of the things that the community will start to notice is Monday, the demolition of the existing skate park will start, Monday or Tuesday. And now remember, this can change slightly, but the community is going to start to notice the changes. That site will be closed and shut down to the public for the remainder of the project. So we've done a Facebook posting that's alerted the public to those closure dates. And by the end of next week or the following week, the public will start to notice the buildings start to be essentially deconstructed. I say that because I had pictured the demolition. I don't know how people picture demolition, but I had pictured it where wrecking balls were going to come in, and there's going to be this giant collapsing on itself kind of thing. But it's meticulous, and as I've been told by the contractor, rather boring. So you'll start to see a crane come in and start to dismantle the buildings. And we've been working really close with the Oregon Trail School District to make sure that they're aware of all the activity there. Tiana and her team have been working to put up a privacy fence. So making sure we're keeping everybody in the loop that we can think of. So we'll start to see that happening. Quick update on Sandy Bluff Park. We will be receiving the picnic shelters. The shelters will be delivered in February. Bids close tomorrow for quotes to do the installation of those parks and to those shelters, and then to reconfigure the dog park. This has been something that we've been talking on and off about for the 2 years I've been here, and then I know that this group's talked about it prior to me being here. So that project, if everything goes as scheduled, should be done by April or May. So you'll see 2 new park shelters in Sandy Bluff. There'll be a little bit of a connector trail from the existing asphalt trails that are there, and then the reconfiguration of the dog park. And then lastly, and Kurt and his team did a great job talking about Cedar Park. We're just really excited that that contract goes to the council on Tuesday. So we'll have that contract in hand. We'll issue a notice to proceed. And we had a successful return for bids. We had 5 people submit, and we went to the lowest responsible bidder, and staging and mobilization for that park project will start sometime in January, February. So again, that whole site is going to have a lot of activity. And if everything goes as planned, we're hoping that the park will be completed this time next year. So lots of activity starting down there. So yeah, just very, very excited. So lots of good stuff happening, and unless you guys, do you have any questions for any updates? Other than that, I'll pass it to John, but any questions?
Just to be clear, the city council is not going to let us vote on demolition for dynamite or wrecking ball of the buildings.
They've already approved the contract. Unfortunately, that was not part of the line items, but sorry, David, not this time.
They never let us have any fun.
No, maybe we could have like a parks board, like wrecking room or something. We could do that. So
Maybe that would be fun.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll hand it over to John. Okay, John, it's your show.
It is. Hooray. I would say the first thing I'm going to update on is exciting to hear people use naturally in context the name Cedar Park. So I can make the assumption that you guys have figured that with your recommendation to City Council approved the name Cedar Park as the newly adopted name for what was considered the campus park. It is now got a beautiful name. So that's fun. That went on December 18th. And yeah, that is our name. Big thanks to everyone involved, but a big shout out to Will Too Good as our co-chair, and Ryan Altman, who is also a part of that naming committee. So thank you for your time on that. My next one would be Winterfest. We did it. It is over for now, kind of. We're already pre-planning and looking at more decorations and talking about how we can upgrade that event next year. But by all the metrics that we have, which is anecdotal and Facebook and social media, it was a success. Lots of positive feedback, lots of happy faces, lots of smiling kiddos and families. And then we also had a meeting today with a company called Placer AI. It is a data tracking and like kind of people counting software. And they're able to go back from up to 2017. And so we pulled from 2018, 2021, the first year post-COVID, 22 and 23, and looked at the numbers of our park usage for the month of December. And in 2018, it was about 5,000 visits we had in the month of December. 2021, there was about 3 2022, our first year of Winterfest, there was about 8,000. And this year we had almost 17,000 visits to the park in the month of December. So going from a pre-Winterfest, kind of pre-COVID, you're looking at 5,000 to a 17,000 kind of jump, which speaks to the hard work of Tiana's team of installing the lights and putting it up, our rec department of programming and doing events, and just this idea of Winterfest being this free, low barrier community event that people are rallying behind. So it was really fun to have some true data to kind of support what we thought we were seeing, which was interesting. Mountain Storm is up. We are on the second week of games, and Mountain Storm, while we love it, it is a bear. We've got 2 full-time recreation staff that pretty much coordinate 6 different gyms and about 30 different teams with games that happen Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, sometimes Thursdays, all throughout the week. When you've got that many teams and stuff, there's issues that arise, but they're all pretty small, minute details when it comes to things. But youth sports is always interesting, and the different levels of competition and expectations that coaches, parents, families have. So juggling that, navigating that, make sure everyone's needs are met and everyone's learning and being safe is an interesting challenge to take on. And I would say that's really it for my updates. Other than that, it is continuing to just recreate, provide programs for our community. Any questions? Then I'll kick it over to T.
Hello, everybody. So I'll just piggyback on what John said. You know, we had a really successful Winterfest. I've been reached out to numerous times from members of the community just expressing their joy and appreciation. I'm really proud of my team and really grateful for their hard work. They spent 70 hours in the month of December troubleshooting tripped breakers and trying to keep those lights going. And we're almost done. The park is cleaned up. The lights are gone out of the park. So we are almost done cleaning up Winterfest and putting it away. And we're 108 hours into cleanup with staff time. So we love this event. We're really proud of it. And we love doing this for the community, but it has been a change to our work and our priorities. So we'll be transitioning soon and trying to catch up and start doing some deep cleaning of the parks. And we're responding to down trees. We've had quite a few come down throughout this week. So we're taking those in stride and doing what we can with all of those situations. Early February, the tables and the shelters for the Sandy Bluff project will arrive, and we'll see those rolling into town here very soon. The Cedar Creek Trail construction is almost complete for all intents and purposes. The trail is there. There's just a little bit more work to be done to the trail tread and address that broken glass that we have talked about previously. But it looks beautiful. The bridge is in. It's great. We'll be coming back to you in the coming weeks and letting you know when we plan to have a ribbon cutting for a portion of the trail. We won't completely open the trail since it will be coming up into the construction site of Cedar Park, but we hope to open a portion of the lower section of the trail. That's everything I have for you. Any questions?
Nope, Don, I think you're muted, Don.
Sorry about that. We got all kinds of activity going on in the rest of the house, so I've been hitting the mute button quite a bit tonight. Anyway, anything else for us? Nope, not seeing anything. So let's conclude tonight, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.